Bryce, I was having such a nice morning. Like my plan, I had a plan. I was going to wake up at 6. I was going to start reading the book that I've wanted to read here for a minute, Henry V by Dan Jones. And, I did that. I did read like 15 pages of my book, but you look at the Twitter machine, you look at everything that's happening, and you see, oh, Desmond Bane got traded today on Father's Day of all days, by the way. Like Zach Kleiman, has 2 kids, and he's just like, forgetting Father's Day, and he's just like, yeah, let's go on ahead and make deals on this great day and just go for it. So cool. Sounds great, guys. Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate it. Bryce, how are you on Father's Day?
I mean, I've just been waiting for you to wake up because I've been spending the last 6 hours waiting to talk about this. And so, somebody tweeted at us and, hey, you guys going to go live? And it's like, well, it's like midnight where Sam is at. So no, I don't think we're going live right now. Let's wait a little bit. These are the mechanics of podcasting with somebody who's literally on the other side of the world.
This is true. This is very true. Okay, so let's talk about it. The Memphis Grizzlies have traded Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, the number 16 overall pick, a 2026 first-round pick that is essentially the second best pick of the Washington Wizards in the Phoenix Suns. So potentially like a valuable pick there. A 2028 unprotected first-round pick from Orlando and a 2030 unprotected first-round pick from Orlando. They also get a 2029 first-round pick swap with Orlando. That is a haul, to be clear, for Desmond Bane. What was your? I'm still swimming in it. We're trying to figure this out, guys. We're trying to figure it out on the fly a little bit. What was your immediate thought when you saw this?
So the very first thing that happened was somebody sent the screenshot of the Shams tweet into a group chat I was part of. And I immediately went to Twitter to show them that they had like a fake Shams that they were. I was like, Desmond Bane's not getting traded on Sunday, June 15th, Father's Day, right? Like that's not what we're doing. This Kevin Durant news comes today. Okay, maybe, but I was not.
It was Shams. Chamania.
Yeah, I literally looked at the handle, Sam, because I've got before mostly with Pistons stuff. I got on like the most random backup point guard signing or something. It's just absolutely these people are, they're good at it, but come on, backup point guard, but they know we're over everything. So that was the first thing. Then my next thing was that's a lot, right? Like that seemed like a lot of draft capital. As I've sat on it today, I still think it's a lot. With that said, I do really like this fit of Desmond Bane in Orlando, right? Like we've done this. I saw somebody said like rest in peace to the Anthony Simons trade ideas to Orlando that, never materialized. I think we ended up on Malik Monk maybe in our Magic offseason preview. So like everybody was kind of in the right realm of stuff. So then I got to the point where I'm really intrigued by this Magic team and they're going for it, which I always respect. And I think I've landed where I think it's still an overpay, maybe by a first round pick or something like that. And my guess is Orlando identified Desmond Bane and Kleiman forced Orlando to give him what they wanted because it wasn't any sort of the other way around where the Grizzlies were shopping Desmond Bane, would be my guess.
Yeah. So Desmond Bane over the last 4 years of his career, right? And Bane does have a tendency just because he's so physical, like he will miss some time here and there.
Yeah. I saw that with the games played. Like there's a little bit there to be nervous about. Is that fair, Sam? Nervous?
I don't even know about
nervous is a little strong.
None of them
aware.
Aware. None of them are injuries that are persistent, really. It's just that he plays really hard and will pick some things up, right? So Bane is averaging over the last 4 seasons, so this is a long sample now, 20 points on 47, 41, 89 with 5 rebounds, 4.3 assists, a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. He's also a pretty stout physical defender. He's a good rotational defender who knows where he needs to be. He is also a guy that, is more physical and strong at the point of attack than anything. I think he's pretty good, honestly, on defense. I wouldn't say he's an all defense guy, like not really all that close to that level, frankly, but he's a solid, good defender, right? And when you add the value of the offense in, where he is probably one of the league's 6 or 7 preeminent 3-point shooters at the end of the day, like it'd be Steph, it would be, he's like just in the class below Steph, I would argue. It's the exact player that Orlando needs. It actually is genuinely, if you ask me like the ideal player that I could go get if I was Orlando, it wouldn't look all that dissimilar from Desmond Bane, because he is such a real shooter off of movement. He's a real threat that teams have to stay attached to across the perimeter constantly. He can run off of different actions. He can screen and pick and roll. Like Paulo and Bane, like ball screen, like slip actions, if they get really creative, are going to be really, really hard to guard. Because in theory, you have to have a guy who's quick enough to be able to like deal with Bane coming off of all sorts of like different actions off the ball. But most of those guys aren't actually strong enough to deal with Paulo in mismatch situations, right? So you just start to think about the mechanics of how something like this really works, right? How it bears itself out on the court, like particularly. And you get really excited about Orlando.
Yeah.
This is genuinely, I think, the perfect player for them. On top of it, what is the other thing that you and I have always talked about on the defensive end with Orlando? We don't want them to go get a smaller guard like Trae Young, frankly, Desmond Bane's teammate, Ja Morant. We've always loved the idea of them being able to invert a lot of what they do offensively, using Paulo as your primary creator, using Franz Wagner at times as your primary creator, and now using Desmond Bane as a creator who can initiate actions, because he's gotten way better in ball screens over the course of his career as well. Because of that, we've always loved the idea of them staying big on defense. They've built this entire infrastructure on the idea of being an elite defensive team, being a bully on that end of the court. Bane allows them to do that more than a smaller guard like a Trae Young or somebody like that would. I think the fit is genuinely perfect. And now you have Jalen Suggs and Desmond Bane as your backcourt combo. I mean, that's a tough thing to deal with on the defensive end. And then on offense, again, the whole thing is that we're assuming Paulo's our primary creator. The whole thing with Orlando is based on the idea that Paulo is going to be an all-NBA player.
Yeah.
Right. Put players in the positions that allow him to thrive that way. This is the exact kind of deal that allows him to thrive that way. Now, I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried about the price tag.
Well,
it's an aggressive price tag.
Let's stay on Bane for a second till we get to the price tag, because I want to point out something defensively, because I've seen a lot of conversation around Bane's defense. I think one thing we need to recognize as well, he's going to guard the other team's third best perimeter offensive player in the starting lineup. Jalen Suggs will be back and will take the primary matchups. If it's a bigger guy, then Franz is going to take that matchup. So like he's in an infrastructure and with a roster, even in a second unit, right? Let's say he's going to kind of do some creation in the second unit, right? You stagger him into that. Well, then Anthony Black is going to take that matchup. So I think defensively, he's going to be fine in terms of the matchups he has to take and what he has to do. And I'm glad you brought up the on-ball ability. Like I went back through my notes when this trade happened, Sam. I have a lot of notes about how impressed I was with what he did off the bounce this year. And so when we talk about teams needing multiple ball handlers, they have Paolo, they have Franz, Suggs can obviously do it a little bit. like Bane is the ideal because he can obviously play off the ball. He made 53% of his unguarded catch and shoots last season, 40% overall. I think he was like 44% on off screens. It's just like the variety and versatility of the scoring. And you brought up like the overall numbers. I just want to read, like, I want to go the last 2 years, or no, the last 3 years. Sam, 170 games, 48, 39, 88, 5 and 5 rebounds and assists. Like, when you look across his numbers, it doesn't matter whether he took 7 shots a game as a rookie, 18 and a half 2 seasons ago, whether he took 4 threes a game as a rookie or 8.5 2 seasons. The percentages are so impressive. I mean, we're going to get to the price tag, but this is a really good offensive player, a little better than neutral defensively, which fits in fine with Orlando. I think it's a great fit. Now we can get to the price tag.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So 4 first-round picks and a swap. I thought it was really funny the way it was framed as 4 unprotected picks. Guys, the 16th pick it's the 16th pick. I guess in theory it's unprotected. You aren't protecting the 16th pick, but it's the 16th pick.
So we think that Sham's tweet probably came from either Desmond Bane's agent wanting his player to sound like he got as much of a haul as possible, or something from within the Memphis, or that probably didn't come from Orlando's side, right? Would we agree?
Who knows? Very, very strange. Yeah.
Okay. Can we break down this return? Like, what do we think KCP getting off of KCP's money? What do we think that was that worth a first round pick?
So I would guess that if KCP hit the market this summer, do you think he gets the mid-level? I don't think so.
He had a bad year, Sam.
He had a really bad year. So I would venture, I think my answer is that he gets slightly less than the mid-level and has how much left? I think it's
40.
I think it's like 45 million left. Yeah. So it's probably a deal that's like 25 million underwater. I think it costs a first round pick to get off of that deal.
Okay.
Is the reality. Cole Anthony is, another specific amount of money underwater with 1 year left. It's 1 plus a team option. I would guess that deal is like 5 or 6 underwater. I would say that it's like maybe like a first and a swap between the 2 players here that they're moving in terms of like underwater value. And then you're trading Bane for 3 first round picks. Honestly, again, like we talked about this when Mikal Bridges got traded last year. This is just kind of the price tag for a guy like this. And I get it that people think this is an overpay, and I've seen people online. I looked at Twitter and made a mistake. I've seen people online going like, oh, the price tag for Kevin Durant just raised. Oh, the price tag for X guy just raised. I think the thing that we're learning over the course of the last, 2 years, maybe even the last 12 months, basically, is that players who are elite off of the ball and produce while also being good defensively and are like stars in their role, let's call it, right? Those guys get more than the borderline stars. Like the on-ball players who probably aren't quite good enough on the ball to be like real difference makers, right? Like Brandon Ingram has 1 year left, obviously, but he gets like a first in like salary matching, right? I think what we're learning here is that NBA teams are adjusting to what's valuable now.
Wouldn't you also say in the Bane and Bridges context, those were teams who thought this was their final piece to a title contending puzzle?
I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, maybe not final in the Mikal situation, just because they traded for
that Cat came after. That's true. But, okay.
Yeah. So I would say Orlando is making the bet that Bane is kind of their guy and is going to be the guy that like really helps them go over the top.
I think another thing we've learned is like the NBA is a business, and just like in business, the value of a product or a player in the case of the NBA lies in what somebody will pay for it, or in this case, trade for it. And ultimately, I know we do this, and I hope that people realize whenever we compare contract values and trade things, we're just giving a comparison, especially when we're doing predictive things of like, hey, this is what so-and-so went for. Maybe this would be a value, a range, whatever. But again, Desmond Bane in a world where Memphis isn't shopping him is going to cost you more than in a world where Memphis has decided, hey, we're breaking this whole thing down. We're trading off everything. And maybe, they trade him for a little bit less. If Orlando called up Zach Kleiman and said, name your price, that's going to be different, right? Or if there was another team involved, that raises. So this is business, right? In its simplest form. Like, I'm not an economist. I have no clue how all of this works, but I understand that value is determined by what somebody will pay you for what you have, your service, your product, or whatever, right? And so we have to keep that in mind, that what Desmond Bane was worth to the Orlando Magic could be right, could be wrong, right? Very much could end up being wrong, but that's what his value was in this situation. That doesn't mean that a player better than Bane is automatically going to get the same return or more.
Yeah, like Kevin Durant is going to get half as much of this deal, and people are going to melt down. Like the value that Kevin Durant gets traded for is going to be half as much as what Desmond Bane got traded for. And they're going to be like, oh my God, Kevin Durant, how did this happen? X, Y, and Z, right? And the reality is that Desmond Bane is on like a fairly decent deal, I would argue. It's not like an amazing deal. He has 23% of the salary cap basically owed to him over the next 3 or 4 years, right? He has 4 years left on the deal. Next year is 24% of the cap. And then the next 3 years are basically somewhere between 22 and 23% of the projected cap, right? We do have to talk about this a little bit from just like the team building perspective too. What this says to me about Orlando is they think that they are like done. Like they think this is their team.
It has to be, right? We talked about their money situation, Sam, and it just got more locked in.
So the thing so I like this. I like the fit of Desmond Bane here. I do worry a little bit, just a little bit, right? I don't want to like concern troll or whatever the fuck that thing is, but like the thing that worries me if I'm Orlando just a little bit here is you're just completely limiting your flexibility. Now, what I will say is that this deal does not like completely demolish their asset cache. They have a lot of young players still on the roster. They have Tristan da Silva, who played a lot of minutes this year as a rookie. They have Goga Batadze, who I think is probably one of the 30 best centers in the league and is their backup center. They have Anthony Black, who up and down so far, I would argue, but definitely at least like an NBA player at 22 years old. They also have Jalen Suggs, who is young and is improving and is on a descending contract. That contract, by the way, gets more valuable for them every single day that it has occurred. Because paying him the most that they can pay him this year and then have that go down to $26.7 million in 2029-30, when that's going to be 12% of the salary cap, is bonkers. That's genuinely really, really bonkers. But they do have young players that could be of value to other teams here. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that they are done. They can move on. They can do whatever they need to do. I would argue they've made their big swing for the offseason. They literally don't have other assets to be able to go out and do anything else. But it wouldn't stun me if we looked up and saw Goga and Tristan da Silva or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, Wendell Carter Jr. for a couple of a first round pick and a young player or something, right? Like these things wouldn't surprise me all that much if we saw them like try to rebuild this asset cache a little bit by making moves along the fringes of their roster a little bit now.
The other thing is they do have another first round pick this year. Like obviously it's not as good as what they traded away at 16, but they have 25, which is either another young player they can add or whatever. And then they will have their 2027 also. It looks, why don't they have their 2026? Where did that get moved? Fanspo's not showing a 2026 first for them, but it's not like the first round pick stuff is completely gone either. Like there's a little bit left there to either draft players or whatever they need to do, including this season. So like you said, it does seem like it's pretty locked in, but they do, like you said, they have some young players. Some of those are interesting, some not as much. And you meant like the center room, you just went through it. They do have some flexibility, even though like just this core group of 4 players is going to be very, very expensive. When you look at Franz, Paolo gets his extension, Bane and Suggs.
Yep. So Orlando still owns the 25th overall pick this year. They still own their 2026 first, I believe.
Oh, so that's what I thought they had their 2026 too. It's not showing up on Fanspo, but okay.
Real GM has them having their 2026 first.
Yeah.
They also have their 2027 first.
That's what I was gonna say. So yeah, they're still have 3 straight first round picks still.
If they want to move the 2026 first, they can still do so. They have more flexibility here than what I think meets the eye. Like if they wanted to go out and trade number 25 in their 2026 first round pick, I believe that they can do that off the top of my head. It would have to be after the 2025 draft, this cycle. But yeah, regardless, I think this deal makes more sense for Orlando than what other people think. I'm still not crazy about the price tag that's paid here. I think it's a lot. I do. I love Desmond Bane as a player. It's just an aggressive amount. It's an aggressive amount to pay for him. The way that this works out for Orlando is if they make the conference finals, right? That's basically what they have to do. Now, if I'm Orlando and I'm in the Eastern Conference and I see where the Eastern Conference is going right now, where Boston is probably not in the picture next year. Milwaukee is probably not in the picture next year. It's probably New York, Cleveland, them, and who's the 4th team I'm missing here?
Who'd you say? Them, Cleveland,
New York, Cleveland,
Indiana,
and Indiana. God, the team in the finals. Why is my brain breaking? It's probably one of those 4 next year right now. And this deal puts them in a real class to be able to contend and compete, I think, at that level. So yeah. I don't mind this deal as much as other people do. It's just, it limits their flexibility a bit here moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think where we're getting to is we love the fit. We love the idea. It's a lot. They paid a lot. It's one of those moves where you just flat out better be right. Like you better get it right. If it doesn't work, or, I mean, ultimately Paolo has to be the all NBA player. But I don't know. Like if I'm Orlando, why do I not believe that? You know what I mean? Like, why do I not believe that Paolo is going to be an all NBA player when healthy? And again, I mentioned it either on our last live or it may have been one of the offseason previews. Look at his playoff numbers. Like they're silly what he's done in the playoff games he's been at in his young NBA career. So yeah. And here, you know what else this does? It takes a little bit of pressure off Franz. And I'm not saying Franz wasn't going to be capable of that role, but it sure makes his life a little bit easier to play even more off the ball, which he's elite at as a cutter off the ball, be even better on the defensive end, like all of those things. It takes pressure off of Jalen Suggs as well, right? Like I think it makes, this is why we like the fit, because it makes everybody better. But when you pay this price tag for it, you better be right and you better get to where you need to get to, or else in hindsight, it's going to look rough, especially if that 2026 first ends up being a top 5 pick or something like that in that draft class.
Just real quick, speaking of that 2026 first, I looked at Pro Sports Transactions to kind of understand a little bit more about what that is. Orlando doesn't have a 2026 first rounder to trade.
Okay.
That's 100% right. Yeah. They cannot, they have no 2026 first.
So
what I said a second ago was wrong.
So does that
that
say
is a swap?
How they moved it?
They moved it in this deal. What do you mean?
No, how did
because they have 25 this year, so they are able to achieve the step-in rule.
What's the 2026 though?
The 2026 is their own.
It has swaps.
Rights.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
So let's go to Memphis real quick. I've seen some people questioning if this means Memphis is going to tear down the core. I do not think that they're going to tear down the core, to be honest with you. I think that they're probably looking at this as that they now have all of their own picks, outside of this year's. And then additionally, they have 4 first-round picks now from Orlando to be able to do kind of what they want to do. Like if they want to get involved in just about any star trade, they have the asset capital to do so. And just to be real with it, right? Let's talk for a second here. This team needed a change up.
Sure.
To me, given that you're very likely to give Jaren Jackson this massive extension here, you're probably going to renegotiate and extend him this summer. And we'll talk about how this trade impacts that. I think that you probably had to move one of Desmond or Ja. At the end of the day, you probably had to, because this thing just felt stale on some level. It did. It felt like it wasn't going anywhere quickly. So if you're able to move Bane, who I would guess right now, given that Ja has been in and out of the lineup and has had his own issues, given that Jaren only has 1 year left on his deal, I would argue that Bane probably had the most trade value of the 3, while being, all due respect to Desmond Bane, a player that I genuinely love, the 3rd best player when he's all 3 are on the court of the 3. It does make sense to cash in on Bane if you're them.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with Memphis still is just is Ja going to be the guy, right? And this doesn't change that. But I guess to your point, maybe it gives you the assets to go out and get a different guy, the guy to pair with Jaren. I saw somebody tweet, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, in that, I mean, Orlando is completely bucking this, I guess I feel like, and Oklahoma City is going to have to eventually. Do you think any of this was Memphis going also you just can't pay three dudes in the NBA and in this era of the NBA, and we're about to pay Jaren, so we need to get off Bane? And is this where teams are going to go in general, where we're just going to pay 2 guys? We feel like all we can do is max out 2 guys and then build out our roster around it. Is you think maybe they're looking at that as the path in today's game with the new CBA, second apron, all of that?
I would guess that they think that you probably do have to pay a 3rd guy. I can't imagine that they think that Ja and Jaren by themselves are enough to do this.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just wonder if they think that they needed the upgrade on Desmond Bane and they needed to go find a different 3rd guy. They needed that guy to be better. And if you can cash in on Bane to a team that desperately values Bane in Orlando, where he's the perfect fit for everything that they have, it probably makes sense to get the 4 firsts, because to a team that's trading a star, the 4 firsts are probably more valuable to that team than Bane is to that team, because that team that's trading a star is probably rebuilding in some respect.
So if you take these assets and flip them for Trey Murphy, Like we both think that that's pretty interesting process then.
Yeah, I do. I mean, Desmond. Yeah, I do. I would argue that. Yeah. I think Trey has a little bit more upside than Desmond. Yeah.
Bane has done it more consistently. No question. But it's a different. It'd give you something a little different. Not a lot, but obviously different body types.
Yeah. Look, I just, again, Desmond Bane was not in the trade rumors. So you never know. Maybe the new front office in New Orleans is looking more at moving Trey Murphy than what is readily apparent. But I just haven't seen much that makes me believe they're moving Trey Murphy at this point. So it makes me hard to believe that. The guy that I'm wondering here about is very obvious.
Yeah, I just was trying to avoid that one because, like, I think they're trying to get in on Giannis. They're trying to get in on Giannis. How do they get to the money though?
They'll figure it out. Like, it's fine. They'll figure it out, right? I'll have to look at it honestly, but
because I tried to do this for KD earlier, Sam. Even whenever I was just thinking KD, and if you're not going to put Jaren or Ja in the deal,
I mean, you get there with like KCP and Cole Anthony, right?
That's 35.
Yeah, and it's KCP, Cole Anthony, and Brandon Clark probably gets you there.
47.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Like the money is doable. I'm guessing they'd have to move Edie in that deal too. Honestly, like I would think that Milwaukee's going to want like a good young player, so you probably do have to move Edie in a Giannis deal. But I think this is very odd. Like I think that they're setting themselves up for a potential Giannis swing. Is what this looks like to me. Or maybe you try to go to Phoenix and say, "Hey, we have your pick." Like, so that you do Devin Booker, like. Because think about Giannis. They have Jaren Jackson, who's the perfect big to play with Giannis. Is why I say Giannis.
Sure. Yeah. Ja and Giannis? Any concerns?
Look, I don't love Ja as a player. So, like, sure. I mean, look, I do love Ja as a player. I shouldn't say I love him as a player. I love watching Ja Morant play basketball. I don't know how effective it is at the highest levels of like the playoffs, but we just saw him in, game 3 against Oklahoma City, just obliterate them up until he got hurt. So like, who knows? But yeah, I mean, I don't like, I'm fine with that. Maybe you move Ja for Giannis. Like maybe it's Ja and picks for Giannis or something, right?
Like Giannis and Jaren.
That's a pretty fun pairing, isn't it? That's a good way to start.
No, it's not bad depending on what you could build around. I mean, I would want Desmond Bane on my team in that scenario is the problem, but my mind went to where your mind is at as well. It did not go to blow it up. It went to, we couldn't turn this down. To your point, maybe this has gotten a little bit stale. This is a ridiculous haul. We can take these and go get player X, whether it's super swing for Giannis, short-term swing for Kevin Durant, or Trey Murphy-esque player that shakes loose that's actually available if Trey Murphy isn't. Like I use Trey Murphy's name because one, I love his game, and like it's the easiest name to throw out. But if he's not available, that version of player on the wing that is out there somewhere.
Yeah, like to me, you don't need to be specific.
Sure.
In like the exact player you're targeting, because you have all of this pick capital now. And they've done well in the draft is the other thing too. So like if you're them, you feel like, okay, we're probably going to draft good players that will actually hold their value, unlike some other teams that do this, right? Like Utah, for instance, I think is a prime example of guys unfortunately not holding their value once being drafted. Memphis tends to like hit in the draft. That's just the reality of what they've done. Like, look, they've missed on David Roddy, occasionally, right? But you look at their recent draft picks, they tend to do well. So
The other thing is they have like rotation level players on silly deals because they not just draft, but they Jay Huff, Scottie Pippen Jr. You know, I mean, obviously they did draft Jalen Wells, but you know what I mean? Like they've hit on these. We always talk about winning along the margins. Those guys are all $2 million, $2.5 million for 3 years. So this is a team that can absorb this type of Giannis level move. And it's like, well, how are they going to build out there's 3 backup players, you know, I mean, Jalen Wells may be a starter, but like there's a backup point guard and a backup center that's not even $5 million next year. Like that's why they can get away with it.
Yep. No, I think that's right. That's what this is setting up to me though. I don't think they're blowing this thing up by any stretch. The thing that this does impact weirdly, KCP and Cole Anthony, I believe, combined to make like a little bit more money than what Bane did. Bane was scheduled to, if I remember correctly. It could be just like very, very slightly more. I think that they have like a little bit less money now to spend on a renegotiation and extension with Jaren. So they're going to have to make like another move here.
We
like they're going to have to put. Yeah, go ahead.
We talked about that anyway, though, right? To like really do the big thing. We talked about them, like, what was it? Getting off of Kennard, right? Like just getting off the cap hold for Kennard. Wasn't that it? And then they could do it and they could keep the restricted free agency on Santi because his cap hold is fairly, low enough. It just changes it a little bit, right? Like it didn't make sense initially, but because of the draft pick, they actually take in $2 extra million. Like it cuts into their cap space a touch, but to really do the Jaren extension, they were going to have to do something else anyway. They weren't adding 4, only adding 7 was never going to do. I mean, I guess it could have, but that wasn't really the idea that we had.
Yeah. So like my guess here on what they do, this is a total guess, is that they probably try to move Concher or Cole Anthony into like a trade exception somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Like either via trading down in the draft or, spending asset capital to do so, like something like that. I would guess that they probably try to do that in order to open their space, would be my guess. That would be my read.
Yep.
So I think that they've dropped down from I think it's like 7.5 million is what they projected to have to be able to use to renegotiate Jaren up to like, what is it now? It's like 4.9.
I was gonna say I thought Keith Smith's tweet was 4.9.
It's 4.9. Yeah, I just like kind of did the math. Like it's like 5, 4.9, 4.8. So I'm like doing math in my head kind of while doing this. So, yeah, it's that ballpark. You know what I mean? Like if you're, so this is a good one. If you're the Nets and you want to get up to 16, would you do 19 for 16 and take John Concher into like a trade exception or into your cap space?
You see, Nets taking in Concher to move up in the draft. So wait, that would go where? 19 to move up 3 spots. So
Memphis would drop to 19.
Sure.
The Grizzlies, or the Grizzlies drop to 19, Nets up to 16. They take on Concher, like something like that. I'm not saying that exactly. I'm just saying something in that ballpark.
Sure.
Makes a lot of sense here. Right.
Yep.
So that kind of is where we're settling here. I think that it's a good deal. I think it's just a win-win across the board is where I'm at on it. Like, I understand anybody that says that this is a rough deal for either team, that they think that this is kind of breaking up a Memphis team that is now kind of nowhere in roster wise. Like I wouldn't disagree. They are kind of nowhere, but I do think that it's at least interesting to me, I guess, is what I would say. It's at least interesting to me that the Grizzlies are trying to like find different answers here for a team that it felt stale. Honestly, It did over the last couple of years. Like they got super injured and it just didn't have the same juice this year.
Yeah.
So what do? You have to figure out a way to adjust. You have to figure out a way to make moves on the fly. I think it's a win-win. Obviously for Orlando, it's a huge price to pay, but it's the exact player that they needed. And you get off the Caldwell Pope deal. I think this is fine. I think this is totally a reasonable price point for everybody. It's probably more than I would want to pay, but it's not like we should be disrespectful to Desmond Bane as we go through this kind of deal.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's kind of where I landed on it as well. And again, ultimately, I told you before we recorded, if this truly catapults Orlando into contention, none of us are going to care that we thought maybe it was an extra first rounder too much or whatever. Mm-hmm. And this is the price of when you become one of these teams, right? Like eventually you have to make the move or you get stale, right? And so I have a hard time blaming a team for making an all-in move when I think they're probably about ready for that. Like whenever I think their young core that they drafted and put together is probably ready to start competing at that level, especially in the East.